All right, ready to dive into something you use every single day but probably don't think much about?
Let me guess. Email.
Close. We're talking about the internet.
Ah, got it. Everyone's favorite time waster.
Well, more than that. We're going beyond those simple explanations about the cloud and getting into the nitty-gritty of how it all actually works.
Sounds complex.
It is. Our source material for this deep dive is called How the Internet Actually Works: Wires, Waves, and Magic.
Wires, waves, and magic. That's quite the combination.
Right, and let me tell you, the magic is definitely there. For example, did you know sharks actually have a taste for undersea internet cables?
Sharks. Seriously?
Yeah, it's wild. And get this, your Wi-Fi router is basically a nightclub for invisible lasers.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued.
Sure.
But let's back up a bit. I'm guessing the internet didn't start with cat videos and memes?
You're right about that. The internet's origin story takes us back to the 1960s with a project called ARPANET.
ARPANET, that rings the bell. It was a network for academics, right?
Exactly. A way for researchers to communicate and share their work. It was tiny compared to the billions of users we have today.
It's mind-boggling how far we've come, from a small group of academics to this global phenomenon connecting billions of people.
And here's the kicker. Even though the internet's grown massively, it still relies on physical wires for most of its operations. Like 99%.
Wow, 99%. So all those online shopping sprees, video calls, and let's be honest, the occasional doom scrolling all travel through actual physical cables.
Yep. It's not as wireless as we might think. Every time you hit send on an email, that message gets broken down into tiny data packets.
Like little digital envelopes.
Exactly. And these packets travel through your Wi-Fi, then your internet provider's network, and finally those undersea cables stretching across the ocean floor. Quite a journey for those cat videos.
So it's like a super complex relay race for data, with each packet passed from one point to another until it reaches its destination.
You got it.
Mm.
And this relay race is happening billions of times every second for everything we do online.
That's insane. Okay, but what about Wi-Fi and 5G? Those are wireless, right?
They are, but only for the last part of the journey. Think of Wi-Fi and 5G as the final sprint to the finish line.
Okay, following.
They use invisible light waves to carry data over short distances, like from your router to your phone.
Wait, invisible light waves. So my router is basically shooting lasers all over my house.
Pretty much. It's creating a network that connects your devices to the wider internet using these invisible waves.
Mind blown. You know, you mentioned those undersea cables earlier. Our source material mentioned sharks biting into them. Really?
Oh yeah, it's a thing. As weird as it sounds, sharks have been known to chomp on these cables.
Why would a shark be interested in an internet cable?
Scientists aren't entirely sure, but they think the electromagnetic fields might be attracting them.
So those moments when my internet suddenly cuts out. Could it be because a shark is having a snack miles away?
It's possible, but probably not the most common cause. Damage from ships, earthquakes, even natural wear and tear are more frequent culprits.
Right, that makes more sense. But it does show how vulnerable these cables are.
It does, and that brings up a crucial point. The need for redundancy in the internet's infrastructure. Just like backup generators keep things running during a power outage, multiple cable routes help minimize disruptions.
So there's a whole system in place to make sure one shark bite doesn't take down the entire internet.
Exactly. It's all about keeping things reliable and resilient, even when sharks get hungry.
Okay, that's good to know. But if we're relying on these underwater cables, how is it even possible to, say, stream movies without lag?
That's where the magic of fiber optics comes in. These cables use incredibly thin strands of glass, thinner than a human hair, to transmit data as light pulses.
Data traveling as light, so like beams of light zipping through the ocean.
You got it. And light travels incredibly fast. Data can travel to the moon and back in under 2 seconds via fiber optics.
No wonder fiber internet is so popular. But how do these fiber optic cables actually work?
It's not magic, but it's pretty cool science. They use a principle called total internal reflection. Imagine shining a flashlight down a long, narrow tube.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
The light bounces back and forth off the tube's walls, traveling down its length without escaping.
So the data is encoded in those light pulses, bouncing through the fiber optic cable at super speed.
Exactly. And since light travels much faster through glass than electrical signals through copper wires, fiber optic cables can carry way more data over longer distances.
I never realized how much thought and ingenuity went into making the internet work. It's amazing.
It is. But before we get carried away by the wonders of fiber optics, remember that even with this tech, the internet still faces challenges.
I can imagine. We're constantly demanding more faster speeds, more bandwidth, constant connectivity.
Right, and as our reliance on the internet grows, understanding its complexities and limitations is more crucial than ever.
True, it's not some magical infinite resource. It has real-world constraints.
Exactly. Well, I'm hooked. I can't wait to explore those challenges and the future of the internet.
I think you'll find it fascinating.
All right, before we get lost in the wonders of fiber optics, our source material has a quick quiz to test our understanding so far. Think you're ready?
Hit me with your best shot.
All right, first question. True or false satellites power most of the internet?
It definitely false. We know it's those undersea cables doing the heavy lifting.
You got it. 1 for 1. Next up. True or false? Your Wi-Fi router uses visible light.
False again. Remember, it's those invisible light waves creating that data party in your living room.
2 for 2. You're on a roll. But even with all this talk about cables and waves, I bet some folks out there are still scratching their heads thinking, wait a minute, isn't the internet wireless? I mean, I don't see cables snaking around when I'm browsing on my phone.
It's easy to get that impression, isn't it? After all, we do connect to the internet wirelessly using Wi-Fi or cell networks, but that wireless connection is just the last little hop in a much longer, mostly physical journey.
So, it's like thinking a cross-country letter is delivered entirely by foot just because the mail carrier walks it to your mailbox. We know there are planes, trains, and sorting centers involved long before that final step.
Precisely. And those wireless connections we rely on are just the final handoff in a process that heavily relies on physical infrastructure.
So for those of us who are obsessed with speed gamers, streamers, or just folks who hate buffering, is there a way to bypass the wireless stage and tap directly into that fiber optic superhighway? What's the secret sauce?
Our source material actually suggests a surprisingly simple solution for all you speed demons out there. Use an Ethernet cable.
You're kidding, right? In the age of super fast Wi-Fi, plugging in a cable is still the best option for speed.
Nothing beats a direct wired connection for pure speed and stability. It's like having a dedicated lane on the internet highway, free from the traffic jams and interference that can plague those wireless signals.
So all those fancy Wi-Fi routers with their multiple antennas and promises of gigabit speeds, they can't compete with a simple cable.
They're definitely improving, and for most everyday use, Wi-Fi is perfectly fine. But if you're really serious about squeezing every ounce of speed out of your connection, an Ethernet cable is still the gold standard. It's like having a direct line to the source.
I'm honestly blown away by how this is all coming together. I used to picture the internet as this abstract digital cloud, but now I see it as this incredibly complex and interconnected system, almost like a living organism.
It really is a testament to human ingenuity, isn't it?
We've created this incredible network that spans the globe and allows us to connect with each other in ways that were unimaginable just a few decades ago.
This intricate web of wires, waves, and protocols allows us to communicate, collaborate, learn, and entertain ourselves in ways that are constantly evolving.
And it's not just about convenience or fun. The internet has revolutionized how we work, shop, receive healthcare, and connect with people from all walks of life. It's hard to imagine our world without it.
Absolutely. But as our reliance on the internet continues to grow, it's crucial that we also understand its limitations. It's not some magical infinite resource. We need to be mindful of the real-world constraints, vulnerabilities, and potential downsides as we move forward.
That's a really important point. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking the internet will always be there, always be fast, always be accessible. But the reality is, it's a complex system that requires constant maintenance, innovation, and responsible use from all of us.
You hit the nail on the head. As we demand more from the internet, faster speeds, more bandwidth, even greater connectivity, we need to recognize that there are trade-offs. There are environmental costs, economic costs, and even social costs associated with building and maintaining this vast infrastructure.
So it's not just about making individual choices like using an Ethernet cable or opting for fiber optic internet. It's about acknowledging the larger implications of our internet usage and advocating for policies that promote a sustainable and equitable internet for everyone.
Precisely. We need to be having conversations about things like access for underserved communities, net neutrality, data privacy, and responsible development of new technologies. These are all critical issues that will shape the future of the internet as we know it.
It's funny, we started this deep dive marveling at how fast the internet is, and now we're talking about things like limitations and responsible use.
Right. It's like we've gone from, look at all the cool stuff we can do, to, oh, maybe we need to think about the bigger picture.
Our source material actually talks about this evolution, how even though the internet was designed for efficiency, it's constantly being shaped in unexpected ways.
Totally. Like, remember how we were talking about memes breaking the internet?
Yeah, it's crazy to think that something as simple as a funny image can actually disrupt networks.
It just goes to show you the power of human behavior. We're always pushing boundaries, finding new ways to use things, and sometimes those ways weren't exactly what the designers had in mind.
So maybe the internet isn't breaking. Maybe it's just adapting.
Adapting to us and all our crazy ideas.
Exactly. It's a dynamic system, always changing, always evolving.
And that's what makes it so fascinating, isn't it? We've created this incredible tool, but we're still figuring out how to use it responsibly.
And how to make sure it stays healthy and accessible for everyone.
That's a key point. It's not just about making the internet faster or connecting more devices. It's about making sure everyone benefits.
And that we're all aware of the impact our online actions can have.
We can't just be amazed by the technology we have to be responsible stewards of it.
Because the internet has the potential to be an incredible force for good in the world. But it takes effort from all of us.
Well said. I think that's a perfect takeaway from our deep dive.
The internet is complex and constantly evolving, but it's also a reflection of us, its users.
So keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those memes coming, because who knows what amazing things we'll create together in this digital world.
And if you enjoyed this journey into the inner workings of the internet, be sure to subscribe to the Deep Dive for more explorations of the topics that shape our world.
Until next time, keep those connections strong. And remember, it's not just about the technology, it's about the people.